Hey friend, listen. I know the world is scary right now. Corruption, war, inflation, demographics, degeneracy, disease, unrest, hatred, and despair. We didn't come here to tell you how it is, but that it's going to get way better.
Got a good thing coming, and it's all I need. Everything I wanted, just wait and see.
Better by Bitcoin.
Good.
Fantastic way to start your Tuesday afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for diving into this episode of Better by Bitcoin. I'm here with Bondor and Mr. Syme, who have not seen in a minute because he's been gallivanting across the globe. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you.
The intro hits different after a week or less, 3 days of riots. It's interesting.
It's been wild. What's the temperature over by you guys? I just was up in the Bay, and I was driving down yesterday, and I stopped at a Starbucks and just ordering Starbucks. And I was like, "Oh, where are you going?" I was literally in the middle of nowhere in Northern California, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going back down there." He's like, "Oh, is it even safe to go down there?" I was like, "Wow, man." I was like, "I'm pretty confident it's safe. I'm sure it's media overblown and hype." And that was correct. It's just kind of wild, though, how the media totally captures anyone and everyone's belief system about anything and just kind of blows it up. And so it makes sense to the terror people can feel, #COVID, about anything and everything. Yep. So it's just kind of weird. Did you I know you were back kind of before this riot stuff was happening, but I'm just kind of curious, Anton, from your travels, is there any similarities in kind of what I was saying about the people being terrorized about something that was kind of being hyperventilated over in the media, but maybe wasn't true in IRL in the meat space?
Yeah, so I was just in Israel, and the first night that I was in Tel Aviv, we got a rocket alert. I was staying on the 17th floor of a hotel. It was at 3 a.m. It was the Houthis had fired a missile at Tel Aviv. So Israel has the ability to shoot down most of them. Every once in a while, one will sneak through, but for the most part, they're going to shoot it down if it's going to go at a major populated area. So that doesn't make you feel safe, but the actual atmosphere around Tel Aviv feels incredibly safe. There's just kids out 10, 11 p.m. riding scooters around in the city. There's very low crime. So a friend of mine who was with me on the trip said that he felt safer in Tel Aviv than he would feel in downtown Los Angeles right now, even with rocket attacks going on. But I do have a little bit of a differing opinion. I live just north of downtown, but in a neighborhood that I very specifically chose because it has geographical boundaries that make a riot's basically not going to happen in my neighborhood. But oftentimes I do drive through downtown Los Angeles to go to the airport, and protesters will almost always shut down sometimes the 110 freeway, sometimes the 101 freeway. And if you were driving through there and they're all of a sudden throwing bricks and rocks at the freeway, that could be incredibly dangerous for you. So it is overblown because the riots are taking place in a very specific place downtown. But in some ways, it's not overblown because if you happen to be in downtown or if you live downtown, then there's going to be a lot of trouble for you. Also, they're absolutely, from an aesthetic standpoint, they've absolutely destroyed downtown. Everything is covered in ACAB and F12 and all this stuff all over. So that is terrible. And then one other thing that did piss me off this week is that people were trying to assemble protests in my neighborhood on our neighborhood Facebook groups. And they're like, "Oh, it's a peaceful protest, blah, blah, blah." Yeah, but a riot is actively going on. So you're assembling a peaceful protest while there's this atmosphere of rioting, which I just feel like is a recipe for disaster. And of course, there were some elements of teenage kids who are spray painting in my neighborhood now. So even though my neighborhood is completely separate from it, is it separate from it? Because that same mental virus is even getting into nicer areas like where we live.
Yeah.
What's your take, Pandor?
The thing with the downtown LA too, just the there's no secure freeway in downtown LA. You like the 101 in particular, it's a lowered freeway, and it's like literally a sidewalk, a wall, the freeway. Anybody can just like launch anything into the freeway at any time anyway. Like just out of principle, that section should be avoided always because it's just ridiculous. But then, there's also the cool development that has been rumored about for years, which is like, oh, let's cap the freeway, put it in a park, like make it beautiful, like all this stuff. But welcome to California, where they can't even build anything.
Is it the 4th Street or the 6th Street bridge, the one that has the like comes off of the 101 and then another 110 and like swoops into the city, and you have the over thing? We used to shoot there all the time, and it always blows my mind, like all of those images that you're getting of the riot because of where they're happening. It's like they're cinematic and they're beautiful because that's where people shoot like movies all the time because of the way it looks. And so it's just kind of like, I'm not saying they're fabricated, right? But what I am positing as a question is like, why was that spot taken? And I'm sure it's because, people know, whoever, the media or whoever, that is a great place to take photographs. Just like,
and it's also, there's a lot of federal buildings down there. Like that's the civic core, right? Like right below Bunker Hill is the civic core. Yeah. So, it's just like, oh yeah, let's do it there. And it's also not it's not, there are apartments there. There are people who live there, but like, man, after COVID destroyed downtown LA. Downtown LA was incredible. And then COVID just destroyed it. And
I remember driving through
there anymore.
There's nothing. Yeah, it's like all the big establishments, like there's still some like Kohl's and things like that are still there, but a lot of the places that I would drive by, like I'm surprised it's like, wait, was it like the world's like largest bookstore or whatever it is that's downtown? It's like I'm surprised some of these places are still even
oldest, the last bookstore. Yeah,
there it is. Yeah, and it's like I just feel bad for those establishments because all of this unrest, it kind of does three things. One is that street that they're on, as I was just saying about like the and shooting being films, not being guns, but people would shoot there all the time. Like that street, it's like you usually have to book it out 2, 3, maybe even like 4 weeks in advance, and sometimes even longer if you're doing like a bigger production to get that particular location. So it's kind of like cutting off your nose to spite your face, where all these productions that are leaving LA are given even more of a reason to leave LA because you can't even anticipate what's going to be happening on any given Sunday. It's just, shooting in another part of California, and, one of the topics of conversation on set, it was just like all of the stuff that's leaving LA because it's so much cheaper to shoot in Georgia, or it's so much more stable to shoot in Toronto or wherever it is. And so it's just kind of this, Gavin is spending all this time bloviating about wanting to get arrested because he wants to use it for his 2028 campaign. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Because, can't look how great it did for Trump. But it's one of those things that it's like, dude, I don't know your end game in this, because this does not turn out well for California when our number one export is entertainment. And we can't even do that here. Like, it's wild.
Yeah. There's also a whole, conversation to be had about just how close to like the forefront of so many things California is, and then the riots and everybody leaving and COVID and everybody and the lockdowns and like outrageously retarded communist politics here. Like, well, of course everyone's going to leave, but California has been at the forefront of all of this for so long, and it's like there's Lindy effects there that are not going to go away anytime soon. And so there's this real dynamic of like nobody kind of really knows how strong those Lindy effects are and how much of a pool. Like, oh, we just flip the lever and then everyone comes back. It's like, well, maybe not, because we've really burned so many bridges.
For those who don't know, what is the Lindy effect? Can you kind of break it down real quick?
Yeah, the Lindy effect is just momentum. If something has been going in this particular direction for this long, the expectation is that it will continue in that direction for at least that long.
I have some thoughts, like specific thoughts about these current riots. And as we're recording this, it is Tuesday, June 10th. So I don't know when people are going to be listening to this, but there were essentially 4 days of rioting. And a lot of people were up in arms because Trump released first 2,000 National Guard, then it was 700 Marines, and I forget what the exact numbers are right now. But a couple things were going on. Number one, the National Guard was sent to downtown Los Angeles for one reason and one reason only, and that was to protect federal buildings. The National Guard was not sent to protect downtown Los Angeles, to stop protesters or do anything like that. So when you see videos of guys yelling at the cops, they are essentially yelling at a National Guard saying, we want to destroy this building and you're standing in our way. They're not saying you're violating my rights in any way. They're saying we want to do violence and you're trying to stop us from doing violence against this particular building. So that's the first thing. Second, the cops were told to stand down. So when you see the cops hiding under an overpass and there are guys waving Mexican flags, literally trying to kill them, throwing bricks on top of cop cars and lighting cars on fire, and the cops aren't doing anything, it's because the government of California told the cops they are not allowed to stop the protesters.
Yep.
I just wanted to say that because I feel like most people don't know that.
Yeah. And then there's also the whole other dynamic of, well, why are these things happening? Well, why are these crazy riots happening in the first place? Well, it's because ICE, arrested 40 people, and it was like, oh, well, everyone just assumes that they are day laborers or they're here to support their family or whatever it is. And it's like, no, these people are like these were not regular raids. These were people who are cartel members who are doing unbelievable amounts of evil and are just here in pursuit of that, right? And yet California politicians and everyone else, oh, those are the people we have to support. We have to support those people.
I saw there was a bus that there's this picture. It's a bus. It's got like, I think it's like 33 Chinese nationals. This one was in Dallas. The people that they were deporting were convicted murderers and convicted rapists from China.
Wow.
And people think that the people that are getting rounded up are like the guys out picking strawberries in the field.
Yeah.
Like that's not what's going on right now. So at least get the facts straight.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks because we're going to get flack being three white guys talking about this. But the TLDR is this is all just kind of a symptom of broken money. Because if and again, this is kind of the topic du jour here, is if the money was not broken, there would actually be no reason to immigrate to the United States. Because the main reason people come to the United States for prosperity, and the reason they are trying to find prosperity, is because we have the Cantillon effect. Like we are the best place to be because we are the money printer. It's like we are exporting our inflation to, Bolivia or Venezuela or, pick any country because we are number one. And so the biggest issue right now is, the reason we have such an influx of immigration is because people want to come here because they do want a better life. And I'm not arguing that, that opportunity is here, but it is a challenge because at the end of the day, they're having to make a big decision, kind of like the original pioneers who came over here. It's like, hey, I'm going to leave everything I know to go somewhere else to try to make some money to send it back home. And, the number of times I've talked to Uber drivers, like I talked to an Uber driver one time from Kazakhstan, and he was like, hey, and Tajikistan. And he was like, hey, or one of the stands, I can't remember which one it was. But he's like, no, I come over to the United States, I work for 2 months, and I go home and I live like a king. Because the currency arbitrage is so high that he can literally work for 2 months a year. So basically within the terms of his visa, just pay somebody to use their Uber account, because that's what he did. I'm like, hey, you're not Steve or whatever it was. And you just kind of, that happens. It's such a unfortunate byproduct of a broken money system. And honestly, we're seeing the cracks finally start to form on, the general balance sheet of the market. But it's really, really unfortunate that the ire right now is put on the border patrol person, or the ire is pointed at whoever it may be, when the ire really needs to be pointed at the central bankers, and it really needs to be pointed like at Congress as well, like Congress is 100% at fault, because if you're a career politician, you have any career politician, you have seen inflation spike 10, 30, 60, 100% in your tenure in Congress, like you are 100% to blame here. You have nobody else to blame except for yourself.
Like one of the things that blows my mind about the riots is, and you guys have seen these memes, it's like the picture of the cop cars getting pelted with bricks and rocks, right? And it's like the caption is my tax dollars. And then you like look at the riot, like the people rioting, like somehow also my tax dollars. And then it's like, then the National Guard, also my tax dollars. And the Marines, also my tax dollars. And then all the rioters who are like the organization and the nonprofits and NGOs that are like funding participation and handing out flyers and doing all that are also funded by your tax dollars. And it's just like all of this is just so broken money. Like the only reason any of this exists is because broken money. And then also, of course, like the Craigslist ads, they're like, oh yeah, we're looking for tough guys to show up in downtown and might have to do with confrontation and blah blah blah. It's like, we'll pay you $8,000 a week or whatever it was, or $6,000 to $14,000 a week. We'll pay you to show up to be a rioter. Like, bro, under broken money would anyone find that is a useful way to spend money. Only under broken money could you have enough money to even spend it on all these things. Only under broken money are all these systems like this. It's like so insanely broken, and nobody, not a single one of the people involved, of all the people I just listed, get it. They're all just like, yeah, but I'm getting my paycheck, and hey, it's like, bro, the person you're literally pointing a gun at another person who is there getting a paycheck to fight you, and the source of those paychecks is the same place. It's bonkers. I'm just gonna say bonkers a lot.
If the money wasn't broken, the guys that are standing there waving a Mexican flag saying Mexico's the greatest culture ever would not be in Los Angeles. If you could be in Mexico, make a good income, save your money, not have to worry about it being stolen by inflation, taxation, confiscation, and Mexico's the greatest country ever, those guys would be in Mexico, or they'd be in Venezuela, or they'd be in Ghana, or they'd be in China, whatever country that they want to live in the culture of, you know, if they want to be within their ethnicity or within their culture, they can be in those places. We're going to get back to that time period. Right now, the U.S. offers opportunity. People can come and make money. No matter what people say, the U.S. has a culture and has a great culture. A lot of people want to come and take advantage of that, but they don't want to assimilate into the culture. And so the reason that they come here is because the money is broken. Right now, the U.S. has the global reserve currency. There are lots of social programs that they can come and take advantage of. And in California, people don't know this, you can get unemployment, and you can be a non-citizen. You can be an illegal alien of the United States, and you can still qualify for unemployment, disability, paid parental leave, all these different programs. If you're a homeless person, you can get thousands of dollars a month for being homeless. None of this requires you to be a citizen, to pay taxes, none of that. So why wouldn't you come to one of the greatest places geographically, climate-wise in the world? And that's exactly what people have done. And
live in a 5-star hotel for free, which is exactly what happens. It's crazy.
Yeah. That is, I think, honestly, the thing that's the most frustrating here in the whole thing is because, like, the people, like, individuals need to be judged on their individual character. Like, let's just call spades. That being said, you know, Tom Howman is between a rock and a hard place, because at the end of the day, and he always answers these questions correctly, it's like, if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. Like, if I were to just go to Japan and, you know, be a gaijin and just kind of walk into Japan and be like, hey, you're going to owe me all this stuff, right? I think I can't remember the guy. It's like, you know, Johnny Somali or whatever it is, the guy who's going around in Japan and like causing a ruckus, and they basically like arrested him and deported him. Like, yeah, that should happen, because at the end of the day, you know, you are coming in and trying to impose your culture and try to impose just like unrest on a homogenous group of people, whether it be Japan, whether it be Thailand, whether it be, Dubai, whatever it is. Like, you have to play by the rules of the place that you're in, because if you can't agree on the rule book, then the rules don't matter. And I think that's the thing that's the biggest frustration for me in this whole thing is, at the end of the day, we still have to show our passport when we go to any country in the world. And yet our politicians are saying that it is not important for you to show your passport to come into our country. Oh, by the way, it's not even important for you to show it to get here. Like, we will give you handouts. We'll give you free healthcare. We'll give you free food. We'll give you free lodging. We'll give you free everything. Whereas when I want to go somewhere else, it's like I'm paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go there, and then just like, scraping together some money for a mediocre meal at best. And so it's really, really frustrating, this entire situation. And it is 100% manufactured because we don't have a good measuring stick. That measuring stick is money. And, and the reason that measuring stick is money is because if you want apples, and I don't really, have any apples to give you right now, well, then I can give you some money and buy those apples later. Or if you have apples and you want to give them to, Anton or Plebe or anybody like myself, like, if they don't want them right now, your apples are going to go bad. And so the measuring stick of money was created to be a store of value and a medium of exchange to solve a very human problem. It's a technology. Money is a technology. And so it's really, really, we're at a sad point in human history when we have a group of political elite who refuse to let a dying technology die. Fiat currency is a dying technology, and it needs to die, because as soon as fiat money dies, everything gets better for everyone.
All of this goes away.
Bitcoin, hard money is the rising tide, and everything gets better for everyone. And it's not going to be overnight, but honestly, if we flipped onto a hard money standard overnight, it actually would be overnight, because people think completely differently the way that they spend hard money than they do soft money. And that actually even goes to, and sorry, I'm rambling, but that even goes to credit card companies. Like, credit card companies want you to do the new thing now, which is tap, because they know if you tap, you spend 4% more, which if you dipped, they knew that you would spend 4% more. And they knew that if you would swipe, you would spend 4% more. And so you're basically spending 12% more than you would spend if you spend cash, because of the technology that they've given you to make that transaction less painful. Like, it's all this stuff that is really frustrating, because it's this vicious cycle of, at the end of the day, the monetary layer, the monetary technology, the base layer of how we value things is broken. And we're more worried about the fact that, oh, you wronged me because of XYZ reason. Oh, by the way, I'm being paid by somebody who actually is getting money for free. And so they're telling me to throw this rock at you. And so it's like, people are treating symptoms, but they're not going to the problem. And the problem is the money.
Yep. And then they're papering over the actual problem with these false solutions and these false narratives about it too. Like, oh, why are you rioting? Well, I'm rioting because I stand against the imperialist nature of shutting down immigration and the U.S. taking over this land and blah, blah, blah. And it just goes on and on and on. It's all just BS. Like, literally none of it makes any sense. If you analyze any of it, none of it makes any sense. And yet that's the thing. It's like these weird, I think at some point, and then you get challenged for, oh, how dare you stand against my ancestral land? How dare you do whatever the thing is that you've done, right? And I mean, the term for it is called a struggle session, which is the Maoist, like, no, we would just like assault somebody with ideological garbage for hours and hours and hours and just make them go through this thing. And it's all just lies on lies on lies on lies on lies. And there's no getting to the bottom of it, and there's no ending it. And it just goes on and on and on. The only like solution is just like not engage, be like, no, you're a retarded communist. Sorry, we're moving on. Sorry that happened to you. But the thing that's crazy is that it's so effective that you can't break through to anybody. It's so impossibly hard to be like, hey, look, here's the solution. I don't want a solution. I want to be mad, right? You're just like, come on, guys. All of it's available to us right now, today. today. The only thing stopping you from ending all of this is literally you. You can literally just put yourself on a Bitcoin standard and be done with it all, like today, right now.
Anton, I'm curious your take on this slant to this as a documentarian, right? As a filmmaker, as a director, as a DP. How important is it to genuinely tell stories and tell parts of stories that you don't like in pursuit of truth? Because I'm curious, because I'm sure you guys, as you're working through the process of like getting to a story, you probably get some stuff that's like, we don't like that. But like, how important is it to be like, well, even though we don't like it, it's actually important?
As a filmmaker, making a movie is expensive. And in order to get the money to make a movie, you have to sell that movie to somebody who is going to give you the money to make that movie. In order to sell a movie, you have to say, this is the direction that we're taking this story. So if it's a documentary, you say, this is our point of view. This movie is essentially propaganda for something. We're going to make it for that thing. But then there's this other thing that happens in production. This happens in narrative movies and it happens in documentary movies. Things just happen and that becomes the story. So an actor might act in a certain way that you didn't expect, might start crying in a scene. Now that's what that character does. In documentary, oftentimes you end up discovering things that you didn't even know existed. So no matter what is written on the page, whatever gets filmed, whatever happens in the heat of production, that becomes the movie. And so there is truth that just supersedes whatever slant that you want to take. For me as a filmmaker, I'm a bit of a purist. So and this is just me, this is my personal values. I want to pursue the truth that I find. So I come at it looking through the lens that I have, but I also come at it with an open mind to find out what is actually going on. And so there's something, I often say that God loves movies because first of all, it's a miracle that any movie ever gets finished. But there are these things that happen when you're making a movie that just seem orchestrated by God. And sometimes those happen on movies that you wouldn't think have like godly biblical type values. And yet these things happen. Like, I'll just give one recent example that I watched, The Florida Project. There's this moment where these two little girls walk into frame and there's a rainbow overarching the entire hotel. That was just a real rainbow that happened. They were at lunch, they saw it, and they grabbed the cameras. They said, hey, are the girls ready? Just have them walk into the frame. And it just kind of goes with the whole story of the movie. And that movie is a really dark story. It's about a mom who is essentially broke, living in a motel, who becomes a sex worker and has a daughter who's getting taken away from her by CPS. Kind of a dark movie. It's also a comedy. But that movie somehow got made. It's a miracle that it got made. And it has these moments in it that are like just moments of truth that were orchestrated by the hand of God. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the way that I see it.
It kind of does. And it's, circling back to kind of the current state with kind of like the riots, like I'm curious y'all's take on, like, I don't necessarily know if the word is a solution, but it's like, does it need to get worse before it gets better? And can it get better with the way things are now? Like, does something have to change, or can we just keep going down this path and it eventually will get better?
I mean, Anton, I love what you just said in answering your question, JD. I love what you just said, Anton, about like there's this hand of God aspect to it, right? Like, for instance, I mean, this is just a stupid thing, but it happened. It's out there. Like when the riots first started, there's a video of a police officer shoving a chair into like the rioters, like, hey, we're forming a line, like get the debris out of the way. And the chair just happens to be if you were to buy that chair new right now, it's a $2,000 chair. It's the Aaron chair, right? Like this is like, whoa, okay. But then you're thinking about this and you're like, wait a second, like in the Bitcoin space, there's a meme, which is sell your chairs and buy Bitcoin. And it's like something like that. And, this is, neither here nor there, whatever. It's just a thing that happened. But it rings like maybe all of the riots and all the things we're going through are just these. We're just gonna see this on repeat until people start to understand what's actually happening. And I think we're already making strides in that. Consider these riots, how you feel about them inside versus the Summer of Love riots, right? How do you feel differently? Like I personally, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. We got to like, look out, be careful, be safe. Like, is these riots feel like these people are the dumbest people out there, and nobody's on board with that. It's like, no, you guys are being dumb. If you were at all intelligent about this, you would never have stood on all those cars and the burning Waymos, and waved a Mexican flag. You would have been waving an American flag because you love America and you want to be here, right? It's like, no, you're not winning. You have not won any points from anybody. If these riots are nominally about immigration, which they're supposed to be about, right? Well, you've proven that you're not worthy of being here because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you are worthy of being here, right? Like maybe you have a whole awesome character, et cetera, and you're contributing and all the rest of it. That's cool. But like, bro, the imaging, you've lost the plot. And it just speaks to this idea of like, wait a second, whether or not it's true, it speaks to the idea of like, this is orchestrated. This is 100% like not organic, not for other purposes. It's literally some guy, and they found the guy who's funding this stuff. It's like, okay, if you're buying into this, man, you got to wake up. You got a lot of rabbit holes to go down.
Yeah, it's really tough on the immigration side, because at the end of the day, it's like I want everybody to have the best life. Like and I'm going to use the word privileged. I don't actually believe in the privilege argument, because I think there's just hands that you're dealt, right? And you need to make the decision whether to get up and go out and do something. Everybody can make that decision. You can decide to do this or not do that. There are opportunities, right? People have different opportunities, and you can argue that a particular opportunity puts you in a privileged position over somebody else. But at the end of the day, everyone has the opportunity to go out and do stuff for the most part. And the challenge right now, and the frustrating thing for me, is all these people are arguing about, it's like, oh, this was once Mexico. Well, it's not Mexico now. And so we're in this position where, like, you can argue that, but if I were to go to Tijuana or, Mexico City and argue that this was once California, because technically it was part of Mexico, and so let's just argue the inverse of like, well, we should just be a united California again, and I don't really care that you're Mexico. Like, I want you to be a part of the United States because you were once California, and California's not part of the United States. Like, people would laugh at me. I'd probably be dead. And so just this frustrating piece of, people really, really not understanding that, at the end of the day, most people, I think, want the best for everyone. They want the best for other people. There are some people who don't, but I'd say most people are generally good people, and they generally want the best for everyone. But where that starts is somewhere. And it's like, for us in America, it's the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And so if you want to be respected and you want to actually have the, privileges, because that is a set of privilege. Like, privileges are something that are bestowed upon you by someone. The privileges of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, well, that comes with being a citizen. That comes with being here legally. That comes with following the rules. Like, you don't get access to the rules if you're breaking the rules. And like, that's the issue here, is like, I'm not going to get afforded the same opportunity or the same rules if I go to, Italy or Germany or Spain or South Africa or Australia. And I wouldn't expect that, because again, I'm not paying for that system. They have different rules and regulations, but it's just, misguided to be arguing about, you want something that candidly you don't have any claim to. And and I'm just saying that as a matter of fact. I'm not saying that as an act of judgment on any of these people, but it's like, you couldn't expect somebody to go to your house in wherever and take your stuff and then not be upset about it. And that's kind of where right now is like, as a taxpayer, if you're in the United States and somebody's here illegally, they're stealing from you. Like, it's just like brass tacks. That is the case. You are stealing from taxpayers, and that's frustrating.
The 92 riots, in that time period, those people that were burning down Los Angeles thought that they were doing the right thing. In the George Floyd riots in 2020, the people that were burning down Los Angeles thought they were doing the right thing. In 2025, in these riots, the people that are out there lighting Waymo cars on fire, they think they're fighting for a righteous cause. But also at the same time, a lot of them are pretty young, and they're just looking for something to do. They don't have anything better to do.
Getting paid too, right?
They might be getting paid also. But it's fun. It's fun to throw a brick through a window. It's fun to go and loot the Apple store.
Destruction is so fun.
It's a get together in a group. Mob mentality takes over. You're thinking you're fighting some great cause. When you reflect back on the 92 riots, you're like, what positive change did that inspire? Or when you look back on the George Floyd riots, you're like, wow, did that make America better? No, not really. And that's exactly what's going to happen with these riots. I remember, just to bring it back to Bitcoin, I remember during the George Floyd riots, it was kind of in that COVID time period. And I remember I was totally over COVID at this time. But I remember the same people who were absolute Nazis about social distancing, mask wearing, being on lockdown, washing your groceries, not going into restaurants, were in huge groups chanting. They weren't wearing masks, which maybe they should have been when they're causing destruction because their identities were out there. And I remember thinking like, wow, the same people that were saying stay at home are now out in the streets. Meanwhile, I'm staying at home. I'm not staying at home like on lockdown, but I just am not participating in a riot. I'm buying Bitcoin. And I remember the price of Bitcoin went up. It was like 20% or 25% during that time period. It went from like 10,000 to 12,000, something like that. I don't know. I might have been more. I can't remember. All I know is that the price of Bitcoin is going up. And I was like, I bet during these riots, during this unrest, the price of Bitcoin is going to react in a positive way. And sure enough, we went straight back to all-time high. Those people who are just looking for something to do, they're even though it takes a lot of effort to throw a brick. At the same time, it's lazy to protest in the way that they are. They're not going to do the work that it takes to learn about Bitcoin. And so it's a huge wasted opportunity. They could be using that time productively to learn about Bitcoin, to earn money, to buy Bitcoin, and participate in the growth of this thing, to see their own value, their own wealth increase. And instead, they're facing potential felonies. And you have drones circling around, monitoring their identities, triangulating where their phone is, and Palantir. And they're going to have a rude wake-up call when they go on vacation and they try to come back in the United States, and they're banned from coming into the United States. And that will happen to a lot of people.
Or when they're on the no-fly list, right? They're like, flying is a privilege. Like, you want to talk about privileges? Privileges are rights bestowed upon you by somebody else. Like, flying is a privilege. You are at the privilege of the company that is allowing you to fly, or the privilege of the country that you're trying to go into. Sorry, go ahead.
So, like, bring this back to, how does Bitcoin make this better? Bitcoin, and these people don't realize this yet, but Bitcoin is the actual protest. Bitcoin is the actual solution to the thing that they want. They stand against immigration. Well, if they all adopted Bitcoin, there'd be no reason to immigrate anywhere, because you would have all the opportunities that you want close to your family, close to your people, close to your culture. There's no reason, because your entire government is not inflating the currency, or having foreign government inflate a currency on top of you. Solves the problem, right? And that's not to say that all immigration is because of economic reasons, but most immigration is because of economic reasons. It's obviously the overwhelming majority of cases, right? Okay, but then you go through all these things. You're like, bro, if you just stopped doing this, you wouldn't have any felony charges. You wouldn't be in the Palantir database for these offenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you'd have more money. You look at, and it's like, oh, well, how does this, like, everybody who owns Bitcoin is basically like, unfortunately in some way, but long riot, because, well, what happens when people riot? They break windows, they loot businesses, they destroy public infrastructure, they cause all of this work that now needs to be done. What's the next thing that happens? Well, all these companies, all these municipalities, they start taking out claims against their insurance companies. What happens there? Well, the insurance companies are then underfunded. So the next thing they have to do is they have to go appeal to the Fed and appeal to their bankers and all the rest of that so that they can pay out their liabilities. Well, what does the Fed and the bankers do? Well, they print money. And what happens when you print money? Bitcoin goes up. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys? There's an existing solution, which is Bitcoin, to all of the protesting reasons. And instead of actually participating in the real protest, participating in the real solution, they just want to, they're literally, by rioting and by committing acts of violence and destruction, they are just giving more and more and more power to the Bitcoiners who have already figured it out. Sorry, it's going to be game over once all the agencies with the Bitcoiners.
I do think, I was looking at a chart earlier today about like the retail FOMO cycles for Bitcoin. And again, like I'm still a baby Bitcoiner, still new coming up here. And the current cycle is basically at like a 45-degree angle. And everybody's like, oh, this is the institutional stair step, right? This is what institutions, how they buy stuff, is they buy in big tranches and then they like, it's like stair step. And so it's like we're kind of getting that stair step model here. And as somebody who firmly believes in the ability of sound money to change the entire world, I'm nervous that it's not going to change fast enough, and we're going to continue to be frogs in a pot, because like we need the system to break. I guess that's the thing. It's like 1 point for the rioters is we need the system to break. The challenge with the rioters, though, is they don't know what they're doing. Like they're just like, hey, pick up that rock and throw it. And they're like, cool, you're going to pay me to pick up that rock and throw it? Yeah, I'll freaking pick up the rock and throw it. But it's so short-sighted that it's actually not solving any problems. All it's doing is enriching the insurance companies, and because the insurance companies are close to the money printer, it's just going to enrich the people at the insurance companies and the bankers, because the bankers will print more money because they can make more money from it, and the insurance companies will gladly take that money because they need that money to make their stock price go up, and if their stock price goes up, then they can continue to make more money. And it's like it's just this vicious cycle that they can then go out and pay more rioters to do more riots because it's valuable. And so it sucks because, just like you were saying, Bondor, they're missing the point, and that is one of the reasons why we have this show, is to try and paint the picture. And so I think that's one thing, like maybe this is a good transition point to start going in there. Like, hey, like, how can we paint the picture? Like, how would, if you could talk to the rioters right now, and let's assume they're not capable of understanding Bitcoin. So like, let's not even go down the route of like, you need to understand this, but like, what would you say is like a picture you could paint for somebody who is here illegally, and then also for somebody who, is here just as a citizen? But like, what are the two pictures you could paint about the world at large, LA at large, Mexico at large? Because I'm using Mexico currently because that's the biggest point of contention, is it's like people being, deported back to Mexico. But like, how would you guys paint that picture of like, okay, we're on a Bitcoin standard. You don't understand what that means, but here's what it means if you can't really understand the Bitcoin standard part. Like, here's why this matters to you. Like, what would you explain to them of like, it gets better and this is what it looks like?
When Laszlo paid $10,000 for 2 pizzas, it was Laszlo, right? A lot of people are like, what an idiot. That'd be worth like billions of dollars now. Well, who received the 10,000 Bitcoin? Somebody received it. And in a similar way, I saw a thing where the cost of sending Marines to Los Angeles was $135 million. All right, who received the $135 million? It went somewhere. It didn't just get burned. Then there's the other reality that the government is going to print money to pay that $135 million. When the government prints money, the value of assets, because of the Cantillon effect, go up first. Therefore, it's going to cause the price of Bitcoin to go up. So simply by holding Bitcoin, you see your wealth go up. So that's all just to say that the way that Bitcoin makes your life better is everything that happens, the positive and the negative, are going to cause the price of Bitcoin to go up. It's going to cause the value of Bitcoin to go up. You're literally just going to get richer by holding Bitcoin and doing nothing else. So it makes your having more money gives you more freedom. Having Bitcoin gives you more freedom. Simply by owning and understanding Bitcoin, you become more free. I wanted to talk about what you were asking about Mexico, but that was a lot. So maybe Bondor, if you want to take over. I just wanted to get that out.
I mean, I have a lot of difficulty with trying to explain it and trying to get it across to people, because I mean, you know, as you guys have as well, we've been doing this for years. Like, we've been literally, like, we've lost friends over this stuff, because it's like we tell them in the simplest way possible, buy Bitcoin, it fixes this problem. And then we tell them in the most complicated technical way possible, Nakamoto consensus cannot be broken, and therefore it means that we can have a non-inflationary currency, and the non-inflationary currency affects our time preferences. Well, okay, well, the time preferences are when you value the long term over the short term. If you have low time preferences, you value the long term over the short term. High inflation means you'll always value the short term over the long term. When you value the short term over the long term, psychological reinforcement starts to kick in, and you begin to do all sorts of ridiculous behavior because you can't think past the edge of your nose, right? And you give them these like ultra short solutions, ultra long solutions. You bring in experts, you bring in like nobodies, you bring in people who are no longer in poverty because of Bitcoin. You bring in, like, it doesn't matter who you bring in. Everyone's like, Ponzi scheme. I figured it out. It's a Ponzi scheme. Just complete, absolute dismissal. And, you know, JD goes to what you're saying. It's like this, they can't see it because their time preferences are too short. I mean, maybe the only solution is that eventually, and we know this is already going to happen, people are already building this product, eventually the entire banking system is just going to be running on top of Bitcoin anyway, because of its ability to send, you can send any amount of money between any bank internationally and have final settlement. And you can do this on the Lightning Network too, which is, well, if we have final settlement in a second, that completely changes all of global finance. Okay, well then all of global finance is then running on a Bitcoin standard, whether or not you understand it, right? And at that point, that's when the time preferences start to kick in, and you know, all of the like entrepreneurs and business leaders who are closer to that system, those time preferences start to kick in, and we start to see products that are more long-term oriented. We start to see innovations that actually push towards that, and we start to see culture at that point start to push towards that direction. So I mean, how do you communicate that to somebody, and how do you get them to believe it? Well, maybe you don't have to, but I certainly want to try.
I'm reading the book right now, The 5 Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom, and kind of what you're talking about, where just kind of the world gets better, and the time preferences are what do it. It is a very, very powerful, you know, the way it's described online is a transformative guide to design your dream life. And it's like, I would say it's more than that. I would say it's a expose on understanding your priorities. And one of the things I talk about is your life razor. You talked about this topic. And your life razor, just like Occam's razor. Occam's razor is this theory that the simplest explanation is probably the true one. And the life razor concept that Sahil breaks down in this is you should have a life razor where it's like, if your life razor, for instance, was, if it takes me away from my kids, I don't do it. It's a very simple decision-making framework that kind of pushes you in a direction that, you know, makes things easy. It cuts through things. It's a razor. One of the things that they say in there, and I'll land the plane on why this is, but one of the things that he talks about is most people will probably only see their parents a handful of times before they die. If your parents, the average age is between 70 and 80 years old. If your parents are in their 60s, you probably only have 20 more times to see them before they die, before before they're gone. Or if they're in their 70s, maybe 10, if you're only seeing them one time a year. When your time preference changes, your priorities change. Like, this hit me like a load of bricks, because I'm like, wow, I'm only going to see my mom X number of times. I'm like, all right, the first thing I did after doing about this is I'm like, I need to change that. I don't only want to see my mom, less than 10 more times before she dies. And this time preference shift and this understanding, this breakthrough for me comes to what these protesters are mad about. Is like, the reason these people are mad is they're like, hey, we want to stay in the United States. The reason they want to stay in the United States is because they want a better life. They want a better life for their family. They want a better life for their children. They want a better life for their kids. Well, guess what? That better life that you want will make its way back to Mexico, and all of Mexico will be better. All of Bolivia, all of Venezuela, all of Brazil, all of wherever will be better on a hard money standard, because no one can steal from you. Period. There is more responsibility with that. And one of the things about responsibility is you can screw stuff up, right? You can make bigger, more costly mistakes, and there will be companies that come about that can kind of protect you from that to a degree, and you will pay for that, like CASA and stuff like that. But the net here is they're arguing about deportation. Like, that's this whole thing, is the debate is deportation. You shouldn't be, or you should be deported. That's the debate. I'm not casting any judgment on whether or not it's correct or incorrect. But the argument really should be, why are you here in the first place? And then the second question should be, what caused that? For most people, I would argue, why you're here in the first place is because you want a better life. Okay. Well, what's causing you to think that you can't get that better life in your country? Well, you can't make ends meet because there's not enough jobs or not enough whatever. And it's like, okay, well, what's causing that? And the answer is, and will be, the fiat system. And until that changes, nothing will get better. And so the best way that you can help change that is take the power from the central bankers and buy Bitcoin.
Correct. Well stated. Full points. 10 out of 10.
So there's this thing called the bell curve. And basically, there's a few geniuses. There are a few really low IQ people. Most people are kind of a general level of intelligence. So people are not dumb. Yeah. People are just kind of average. So when you see these protests and riots, there are a lot of people on the left side of the bell curve, for sure. Some of the dumbest people are the guys like riding motorcycles straight into a wall of cops and just getting knocked off the motorcycle and getting thrown in jail. That's the people on the left side of the bell curve. But a lot of these people are just average intelligence. And yet they're ignorant. They don't even know why they're rioting. A lot of my friends are posting on social media in support of these riots, and they're just ignorant. And essentially it's like, well, why have Bitcoiners figured out what is true, and other people, are Bitcoiners just smarter? And I don't think so. I think Bitcoiners tend to be of pretty average intelligence as well. It's just that Bitcoin has freed our minds from fiat. And so I kind of want to draw this back around to Mexico real quick. You see people waving Mexican flags. These ICE raids, they're not just to grab all the Mexicans in the United States. They're just to grab illegal immigrants, a lot of whom are convicted criminals in other countries. 13 million people in the last 10 years snuck over the border through Mexico. Mexico is a pretty great country. It's a huge country. There's a lot of resources and value in Mexico. People love Mexican culture. It has a great culture. It just has a lot of dangers as well. And it has a fiat currency that has been inflated like crazy over the last 50 years. And it's very, very hard to make an income. When there's a Bitcoin standard, essentially, there will be a lot of incentive for people to live in Mexico. And yeah, so anyway, I just want to say all of that just to say we don't hate Mexicans. That's not why these raids are going on. And yet I think people are just generally confused what is even going on because their brains are on a fiat standard.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that I think is so exciting about Bitcoin is that it allows people to actually turn in and produce and create and contribute to their own culture and their own way of life, their own traditions. It doesn't force them into some other form of traditions and culture. Like it doesn't, like the fiat system literally is forcing unbelievable amounts of people in South America, and has been for decades, even over the last more than the last 10 years, to immigrate to America legally or illegally, because it's destroying their local countries. Fiat currency is destroying the local country. That means it's destroying the local culture. That means it's destroying the local cuisine. That means it's destroying the local arts, music, anything, everything, right? When your demographics are basically just plummeting because all of your productive workforce are leaving and going somewhere else, you're going to have a terrible time preserving your culture and enriching your culture. However, if there's no reason for anybody to leave because they're on a hard money standard, nobody's robbing from you, well, your culture is going to start to accelerate and really improve and have, and you know, that compounds and compounds and compounds, and just, man, it's going to be like, at some point travel is going to be too crazy because the cultures are going to be so immensely, like you'll be just overwhelmed by how immensely beautiful and wonderful some Bolivian cultural village is, right? Because they went to a Bitcoin standard. And like, we have to get that vision in people's heads, because this is the thing. The problem is fiat. That's what's causing all of the problems come from fiat. The solution is Bitcoin. The faster you make that jump, the faster your family, the faster your communities, your culture, everything you care about gets better.
Let me make a crazy analogy real quick that just made me think of. When you mix all the colors, you get brown. Brown can be beautiful. Brown is useful for some things, but you know what else? Purple's beautiful, and red is beautiful, and blue is beautiful. It's not always good to just mix everything all the time and have a world that, and I'm using brown very deliberately. I'm not talking about skin color. I'm talking about cultures. I am not talking about skin color. There have been times in history and in our lifetimes when cultures have been more vibrant in certain places where they have been completely diffused and diluted and basically don't exist anymore. And fiat caused that. And as the rise of Bitcoin essentially takes over, I don't know what other term to use than when the world goes on a Bitcoin standard, those cultures are going to be able to be separated and become more vibrant again.
We're in Pride Month, and I say that to say there's such a distinct call for celebration of differences to a point. And that's frustrating because I totally agree with everything you're saying. And actually, brown is an interesting corollary because brown is also the color of dirt. And, you know, when things just kind of all emulsify as one giant heap, it's just dirty, right? Whereas on the counter of that is like, Japanese culture is beautiful, you know, Mexican culture is beautiful, you know, and also delicious. Like there's like so many unique things like Bolivian cuisine and Portuguese cuisine and like Argentine, just like beef. Like there's so many unique and amazing aspects to the uniqueness of culture. That's actually what I think one of the things that's the saddest part about America is like most of our food is just a bastardization of other cultures' food. I mean, we have like pizza and hot dogs, but other than that, it's like there's not really a lot of like uniquely American food outside of like barbecue ribs. But like the uniqueness of cultures is beautiful. And I was talking about this, I think on last week on the pod, and I was also talking with somebody else about this. You know, and this idea hasn't escaped me of the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel when I looked at it at face value, it was like, oh, this was God. And if you're not familiar with the story of the Tower of Babel is all of the people of the world started building this tower. And they were building it because they wanted to touch the sky. They wanted to make this giant city, the sky city that everybody would look at. And God, when they were doing this, saw all of the people of the world collaborating and doing this. And so he struck down their capacity and capability to communicate with each other. And originally when I saw that, I was like, oh, God is just trying to stop these people from like making themselves God, essentially. And what I actually think was happening there is God was actually saving us from ourselves because he was removing our desire to be one homogenous people, because that would not get us to the best place for all of humanity. And like, that's a really interesting thought to think about, is actually God was saving us from ourselves because he knew we actually needed diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, diversity of everything to get humanity to its inevitable conclusion of when Jesus comes back. But the bigger piece of like to a better place. And so it's really interesting to kind of think about that. Cause like originally I thought Babel was like, oh, God was trying to stop us from becoming gods. But honestly, if you think about it, we are God because we are like, or rather we are like God. We are not gods, but like, he made us in his image, so we have God within us. But the bigger piece of this is really unique and interesting is the thought of, did he stop the people from doing this because he understood that the conclusion of that was they would remove their uniqueness, their unique traits and values, and water down all of the wonderful things that they would be able to do when they went and became more tribal and did the actual like propagating of the earth. So it's just interesting here of like, riots tear things down, but when you really dig into it, you should really lean into your differences and lean into what you're unique and good at, because that's how you actually get beautiful and wonderful things that are unique and varied. You know, hashtag, this is why a lot of people don't like communism.
Yeah, well said. I think there's so many interesting ways to take that. The image of a riot is really kind of just the image of what fiat is. Like a riot is kind of like the end game of fiat. It says, we're not going to create anything. We're just going to steal, destroy, and what are you going to do about it? Come on, fight me, right? Like that's literally what fiat is. And it like, those are the mechanisms fiat uses. What are you going to do about it? Come on, fight me. I have the aircraft carrier, so too bad you can't fight me, right? So fiat is the thing that is diluting all of our cultures. It's watering everything down. It's preventing you from participating in culture to the best of your ability and to be able to create the most beautiful things that you can create. That's what fiat does. It destroys people's agency. It destroys their ability to do anything. It is a destroyer. Fiat destroys. When you hear fiat currency, you should think, oh, the reason this is just destruction, right? And Bitcoin is the exact opposite of that. It says, this is not, we don't need to destroy it. Like we can preserve this value. We can preserve this agency. We can use that value and use that agency to create beautiful things, to actually build up the world, to actually create a better world, to solve the real problems that are facing us and to move beyond them and actually improve humanity, make a better world for our children and the rest of it. Fiat based, you see this in the riots, like, oh, we're rioting so that our kids can have a better solution, a better future. It's like, no, you're literally destroying the world your kids are going to inherit. And that's total fiat thinking. There's no thinking beyond the next 10 seconds. Can I escape this smoke grenade that's been thrown at me, right? It's bonkers to me. And Bitcoin completely unends and undoes all of it. Takes a long time, doesn't happen overnight, but it's for real and it happens. And you can see it in the lives of the people who are Bitcoiners. Go meet some, go try and like get to know them, right? It's going to be an awesome future. Beautiful future.
Yeah. Can I just one thing, then you can close it out. Fiat dilutes culture and it pollutes culture. And just like our intro says, it can be scary out there. There's riots, there's unrest, there's chaos. But one thing you can be rest assured is that Bitcoin thrives when there is chaos. I'm not saying it's a good thing that there's chaos, but if you feel scared and uncertain about the future, one thing you can be certain of is that when things are scary outside, the value of Bitcoin is just increasing. Bitcoin is getting stronger. And so it gives you something that's going to give you a little bit of peace over uncertain surroundings when your value and your freedom is in something that can't be stolen, can't be taken away, can't be confiscated, can't be diluted like the culture is being diluted, and preserves that value for the future. So as bad as rioting and unrest is, it's good for Bitcoin.
Last thoughts, anybody? Any last words, pearls of wisdom for anybody watching who may be at the riot or not at the riot, or thinking about the riot, or afraid of the riot, even though they live in like Guam?
So, if you're afraid, if you're scared right now, buy Bitcoin.
Agreed. 100% agree.
And I'll tack on to that. If you're afraid right now, buy Bitcoin, even if it's hard. And what I mean by that is not if it's like hard to part with your money, but I mean if your government is trying to actively dissuade you with a high tax or a high burden or a difficult way to get access to it, that should tell you something.
Yep.
That should tell you something. You should look at what's going on in the world and realize, what do you have good access to? Fast food. That's not good for you. What do you have good access to? Water that's full of fluoride. Like, what do you get to have access to? You have good access to things that are enriching other people, and things that enrich yourself are normally difficult to get access to. So if you do want a better life, buy Bitcoin, because it tells the system, F you. Tells the system, I'm done playing your games. Tells the system that I am not going to put up with it. We're not going to take it anymore. And it's important that you do that, because it's you voting with your dollar. People talk about that all the time. Vote with your dollars. It doesn't matter if they're denarii. It doesn't matter if they're pesos. It doesn't matter if they're rubles. Vote with your money to show the system that you're done.
Buy Bitcoin. All right, we should wrap it up, I think. JD,
any last thoughts, Anton?
No,
Last word.
Good to be back on the show. I've been out for a while, traveling around the world, and I've been watching the show, and you guys have been doing a great job, and I'm just thankful and proud to be a part of this show. So thanks, guys.
Ditto, man. Glad to have you here. We'll see you guys. We're going to probably do another episode on Thursday. Hopefully we have a couple guest stars lined up, so it should be fun. And see you guys then.
Thanks for tuning in to Better by Bitcoin. Bitcoin makes everything better. Like, subscribe, and follow us on X at BetterBYBTC, YouTube at BetterBYBitcoin. Not financial advice, mathematical certainty.